New York City middle school teachers reporting to school today to get ready to welcome the next wave of students who will begin in-person learning tomorrow. The Department of Education setting the standard, really, for school reopenings across the country, according to the American Federation of Teachers. Listen.
Frankly, I think that New York City has done a pretty good job in terms of showing the way. Big school district, lots of issues in terms of old buildings, and we learned a lot from what New York City did in September and October.
School's Chancellor Richard Carranza joining me now to discuss the next phase of reopening. Chancellor, welcome back to the Pixel Morning News. How you doing?
Hi, Dan. I'm well. I hope you are too.
Doing well, sir. Thank you very much. So this is a big day, next 2 days, really. Teachers returning today, students tomorrow. How many middle school students are you expecting to return in classrooms tomorrow?
We're expecting about 62,000 middle school students that will return to classroom, about 16,000 staff members, an additional 149 buildings, and about 335 schools. So we're really excited. Those are numbers bigger than a lot of school districts in the country.
I think a lot of people are excited, right? Not only the staff, but students and their parents as well. Safety on top of everybody's mind, Chancellor. State education officials ruled against the Department of Education's testing consent requirement for in-person learning. So how will that, if at all, impact schools and the students when it comes to COVID testing?
Yeah, so actually, as Randy Weingarten mentioned, we've set the standard, and our testing and trace protocols are the gold standard in the country. So the Department of Education issued guidance, which they revised very quickly, and it does allow New York City to continue with our testing protocol. So if for all of those middle schoolers that are returning to in-person learning, if you have not yet given consent, parents, your students must show up on the first day with those signed consent forms, or they will be switched to remote learning.
Understood. All right. And the other big factor right now, of course, is vaccines, right? That's on top of everyone's mind. Some 30,000 teachers, I understand, have received a first dose of the vaccine. How is that factoring into your reopening plan? How many more teachers need to go now that they are eligible?
Well, it's not really a matter of our educators wanting the vaccine. They do want the vaccine. It's a supply issue, like the mayor's been talking about. So as we get more and more supply of vaccine, our educators are prioritized, and we are continuing to encourage the vaccine as well. But as we also have shown, the vaccine is not the critical factor in opening for in-person. It's all the other things that we've been doing since September. The social distancing, the universal masking, the deep cleaning, the disinfecting, the ventilation, social distancing. All of that has to be done together to keep schools safe. Of
course.
And we're showing that it's possible. I mean, the latest positivity rate in our schools was 0.58%, which is extraordinary.
0.58 is an extraordinary number. And I want to get to what else is being done, because you're talking about all those factors. You toured PS 142M on the Lower East Side earlier this week, which brings me to the next question then about ventilation upgrades in these older school buildings. You and I have talked about this a number of times here on the Pixel Morning News. Where do we stand on getting those ventilation systems up to code?
So they're actually beyond code. So we've switched out a number of ventilation systems. We have in schools that are older schools, air purifiers in every single classroom. And again, we've put in MERV 13 filters, which are the gold standard. So our middle schools, our elementary, our high schools, we've done above and beyond to make sure that the ventilation is not an issue, but is actually helping to create that safe environment.
So you're saying that it's good to go, like there's no more work to be done?
There's always work to be done, because, you know, these are systems. So things will break, things will need to get, worked on. But by and large, everything that needs to have been put in or replaced has been done. So we feel and I'm proud of all of our folks that have been working nonstop since last March to make that happen.
You know, those are the big questions off the top here, but I want to go in now on the mental health side, Chancellor, because there have been just such an alarming number of suicides among students, right? How many more guidance counselors are you looking to hire to help with this issue? Has there been a push to bring on some more to deal with this growing issue?
That's part of our plan as well. So we're looking to hire over 150 more counselors and social workers. And I think for anyone, I participate on a weekly call with superintendents of the large school systems. And what we're seeing across the country is suicidal ideations, suicides. One of my colleagues was sharing that their suicide rate has tripled since pre-pandemic. But for everyone that's grappling about whether or not to open schools for in-person learning, as long as you can maintain the safety, and if you need a game plan, New York City's got a game plan, but the costs of not doing that are literally life and death. And we're seeing that amongst our students. And it's another reason that we stay up very late working on these plans, because we know that this is a matter of life and death for many of our children.
Oh, for sure. Is there a timeline? I know it's tough to give timelines, but is there a timeline to get those guidance counselors on board?
We're working on that now.
Yeah.
And again, it's also a supply chain issue because we have to hire folks, we have to go through and find if there are folks, and then it's onboarding them and the background check all of those things. This takes time.
New York State education officials, they were hoping to cancel standardized testing for middle school students this spring, but the Biden administration ruled against that, Chancellor. So should standardized tests be phased out completely, in your opinion? I've never been a fan of them, just for what my opinion's worth.
Yeah. I say, they should be phased out. And I say during a pandemic, they make absolutely no sense. And it's unfortunate that the federal government didn't talk to those of us that are on the front lines leading in during a time of COVID. We have a number of students, while we're excited about students that are coming back to in-person learning, we have a number of our students, over half of our students, that are still learning remote. So are we supposed to bring them back into an in-person setting to administer a summative test, which really doesn't give us any information that's actionable to actually address the learning loss? We've already said in New York City, we're going to be doing formative screeners so that we know where students are, so that we know where to intervene. That is very different from what the federal government has just said they want to do, and I'm completely opposed to that.
Understood. I am out of time, sir. Real quick, high schools reopening, will that happen this year, or are you looking towards the fall?
We're working hard to make it happen this year, and a lot of complex issues with high schools, and we're working through them one by one right now.
Understood. Chancellor, always appreciate your voice and the conversation about this, such an important topic for so many. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Stay safe.